Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Chris. I hope you're doing good. Today I want to talk about a couple of lenses from Sigma for L mount. So I have been using my Leica SL2s to do all the tests that you're going to see in this video. And that is the 20mm f2. This is an I series lens, and we have the f1.4 version of the 20mm. So the first thing that I want to kind of, blow out of the water, the kind of the elephant in the room, and that is my viewpoint, my own personal opinion, is the size and basically the form factor between these two lenses, okay? I will be telling you more at the end of this video what my thoughts are and which one I would go for and why, but let me tell you a little bit more about the form factor. In terms of weight, we're talking 370 grams for the f2 version compared to 630 grams for the f1.4 version. So that is a difference of 250 grams, and it is not exactly double, but it is almost double the f2 model in terms of weight. The filter thread is 62 millimeters for the f2 model and 82 for the f1.4 model. That is a difference of 2 centimeters or 20 millimeters, which is not small. And when you see them side by side, you really can tell that the f1.4 version is much bigger. Lengthwise, we're talking 7.2 centimeters high for the f2 version as compared to 11.1 centimeters for the f1.4 model. That is a difference again of 4 centimeters. And when you put them side by side, you can't help but notice how much bigger the f1.4 model is. Form factor aside, let's now tackle the different features these two lenses provide and offer. One of the features that the f1.4 has over the f2 model is the auto aperture lock. What that does is a little knob, little button that you can switch on, and when you go in auto aperture with the ring, it will keep it locked in place. That can be very useful when you don't want to change the aperture by mistake when you're out on the shoot. I personally don't really care, and also because the I series, the f2 model here, when you put it on auto, you do feel there's a little bit of force needed to switch back onto manual aperture. So it's not that much of a deal. The minimum aperture for these two lenses, for the f2 model, we are at f22, and for the f1.4 model, we are at f16. So you're basically gaining a stop of aperture on one end of the spectrum, but you're losing it on the other side. Let me show you a few sample shots here side by side that I shot with these two lenses on my Leica SL2s on a tripod, so you can see a little bit the difference between the two in terms of, depth of field, bokeh, and so forth. Here you go. I did mention locking the aperture ring, but that means there is a physical aperture ring. And that is something I really, really like. You know me, you know that I come from Fuji, from Leica, and they normally have aperture ring on their lenses, especially prime lenses. So here I was very happy to see there is one. The clicks of this thing, I mean, not only the f2 model is entirely made of metal, I'll tell you more in a moment about that, but that means that the ring itself is also made of metal. And listen to this. Very, very satisfying. I'll show you also this one. This one is a little bit less clicky, I feel, than the f2 model, but nevertheless, when you put them on your camera, on the top dial here, you can really see precisely the stop you're on at all times. It is so smooth. It is like, I fell in love with the ring of these lenses. By the way, speaking of aperture ring clicks, one thing you can do with this big guy, the f1.4 version, is you can turn off the click. There's a click on and off here, and when you turn it off, smooth. There's no more click. I mentioned earlier the metal construction and build quality of the lens. Now, the hood for the f2, the A series model, is entirely made of metal. So everything in this lens, besides obviously the cap and the little button, little knob here for the focusing, autofocus, manual focus, is made out of metal. So this thing is very, very robust. It is well built, it is solid. I'm telling you, you need to get this in your hands, pair it with a Leica or Panasonic camera, and you will see that it is very, very premium. I was actually impressed. I was impressed by Sigma on this one. The f1.4 model though, on the other side, it does have a little bit more plastic, starting with the hood. I think the reason why they went with the plastic hood is just simply because of the weight of this lens. If you start adding metal everywhere, it's gonna start having a lot of weight added to it. So I think it's a good choice to go with plastic and rubber. Same for the focusing ring, there is rubber on it. In the middle here, it's made of plastic. So there's a lot, the actual aperture ring is made of aluminum or metal. So yeah, there's a lot more plastic on this lens than on the I-Series f2 model. Autofocusing wise, for photography I'm talking, it is very snappy, very good. Didn't have any issues on that regard. I don't know on video, but even for face tracking, when you're taking photos, it tracks perfectly, at least as good as it can. I did notice on the con side a little bit of vignetting starting between f1.4, so when wide open at f1.4 and f2 for this one, all the way to f4. So everything between f1.4, f2, f2.8 and f4, you will get vignetting around. The f1.4 model was very much advertised for astrophotography, so if you want to go out and shoot some stars, I did so. Here's one sample shot, and I was actually quite impressed with the sharpness of the stars. And I mean, that's basically what we're talking about, the sharpness across the image. Even though it is wide open at f1.4, I did not notice any sort of chromatic aberrations or distortions, particular distortions. And I think they did a very good job with this f1.4 model. Now, I didn't try the f2 version for stars or astrophotography, but I'm sure it does a good job too. You just get one extra stop of light on this guy, which will allow you to reduce the exposure time, ISO, and you can a little bit play around with that. The f1.4 model has obviously a front filter, so does the f2 model, but it also has a rear filter. And this can be used, for example, to reduce the ambient light pollution when you're going out to take photos at night. So you have the possibility to use a couple different filters at the same time on your lens, which is good. The I-Series f2 obviously does not have that in the back, because it is a way more compact and versatile lens, but you can still put something in the front of your element. Both of these lenses are weather sealed, so if you go in dusty and or humid environments, you should not fear having those elements coming into your camera on your sensor, which is good news. Let's now talk price, because that's a little tricky, okay? Right now, currently at B&H, we're talking $900 for the f1.4 version and $700 for the I-Series f2 model. So that is a difference of roughly couple $100. It is not a lot, to be honest. It is not a lot. I was a bit surprised that the f2 version is not a little cheaper. My main point here is you only paying $200 more to get the extra stop of light and, you know, everything, all the little features that the f2 model does not have. But do you actually need those? And do you need to spend the extra $200 for it? That's really up to you. Both these lenses are made in Japan, and I personally really like products made in Japan. As I told you at the beginning of this video, I'm going to tell you which one to me is the best between these two, especially because of form factor, and the answer is clearly the f2. The I-Series f2 model to me is the one that brings the most to the table for a more affordable price, and also the packaging of this thing is so small, so tiny. It really doesn't take a lot of space, and it's surprising for a camera such as the LEICA SL2 series, because it is already a pretty big body. So if you add a bigger lens on it, such as, for example, the 14 f1.2 that I have right here from Sigma, which I'll review in the coming weeks, that adds a lot of weight, a lot of, you know, just the combo, the package is massive. Wherein with this little guy here, you barely feel it. It's more balanced in terms of, you know, front weight, and it just sits perfectly on, you know, whatever you're using, a sling or whatever it is. You can put it anywhere, doesn't take a lot of space. So I clearly would advise you to get the f2 model unless you actually need those things that the f1.4 version do give you. For example, if you do a lot of astrophotography and that's what you do, maybe just go with the f1.4 version, because you're probably going to go there with a car, or you're going to have a backpack, you're going to have the whole setup, and you're going to take your time. So it's not a big deal. But if you're gonna, go around and do landscapes or cityscapes or anything else, even for a wedding, it's good to have something maybe a little bit more compact that doesn't break your shoulders or your wrist or whatever, So there, I hope I answered all and every question you might have had about these two 20mm from Sigma for the L mount. If you have any other question, obviously, and like always, write it down in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe. That helps grow this channel, but it also helps you stay up to date with the latest and greatest from me. And I see you like always in the next one. So keep taking great shots and keep smiling. Cheers.